Bad stabilization can destroy even the best shots that looked cinematic in your camera preview. But luckily, you don't have to worry about it. You can fix it in DaVinci, and also if you are using a Blackmagic camera, you can use Camera Gyro stabilization. That fixes it without a problem. But the most important thing is that you should choose the method of your stabilization before you even start shooting. Why is that? It's because the stabilization in your lens has to be turned off for the camera gyro to work. And under my recent video that covers every method of stabilization possible, I got this comment, and it really made me think. If you don't have stabilization in your lens, the choice is simple. You just use camera gyro and the footage looks great. But what if you have stabilization in your lens and you can turn it on or off? To answer this question, we will go through a few examples that involve moving the camera, whether it's running with it or just slow movements. And I'm really excited to know the answer as well, because I never compared it in that much details. The first example is walking with the camera in a bumpy terrain, first without lens stabilization and later with lens stabilization. When you compare them side by side, you can see that lens stabilization really smooths out the movement and doesn't have these sharp moments. Now I am applying a stabilization. On the left is gyro stabilization and on the right is stabilization from DaVinci Resolve. I think that the difference is quite clear. Now let's try the same thing but with running. Of course, it's not how you would record most footage, but I just want to show you the difference in capturing the footage. As you can see, the left example has much more sharp movements with motion blur, but of course it's not very usable even after stabilization. Gyro stabilization gives a very smooth movement but with a lot of motion blur. The biggest difference is recording on a big zoom. Here it's a 100mm focal length, and as you can see, it's night and day difference. And when we stick them side by side, you can see how big of a difference lens stabilization gives. It's a real advantage. When I stabilized them, I was shocked that the scene with lens stabilization could even be used with camera lock without any artifacts. And now let's try a handheld recording, something very small with a very big zoom. As you can see, the lens stabilization eliminates shakes, that's kind of obvious, but when you stick them side by side, even without the stabilization, it looks much better on the right. Something that you can notice here is that gyro stabilization cuts much more into the footage than stabilization in DaVinci. And now a quick vlogging example with the camera. Of course, it's not that easy with this big camera, but you can see the difference. The lens stabilization smooths the image. And here it's side by side. It's actually not that bad on the either side, but after applying stabilization, you will see that the left example is much more cropped in, but also much smoother, and the only problem is the motion blur. In this example, the gyro works very well. Let's try again with recording something that is close with a bit of movement added. Of course, the lens stabilization helps a lot. Now I think that the lens stabilization will probably also depend on the lens. Here you can see it side by side, but with this 180 degrees shutter angle it doesn't look right on both of them. And now the same thing but with very exaggerated movement, so you can really notice the difference. Okay, so that's how it looks side by side, but I'm really interested how it will look after the stabilization. As you might notice, the left example has much more natural movement and the right is glitched, but has less motion blur. After seeing the comparisons, I think that the lens stabilization wins, and if you have access to it, you should use it, because it really physically impacts the footage that you are recording and not only works in post-production, it removes the motion blur and other artifacts. But if you don't have lens stabilization, I have a method to squeeze the maximum out of camera gyro, and it involves changing shutter speed and shutter angle. I go in depth about this in my other video that covers every method about stabilizing your footage. You can check it out here. Thanks for watching, and if it helped you, leave a like and subscribe. And remember, let your films be shot by reality.